Wesley Snipes leads a team of government specialists to find out what happened to a group of bad actors from a government black site. We are talking Armed Response. So Wesley Snipes' comeback trial is obviously in full swing. We reviewed Final Recall recently, or Recall as it's known in the States, and here we are with Armed Response, which is a WWE film. It also stars Seth Rollins, not his real name by the way, Colby Lopez I think is his real name, and Anne Heche. So the story here is a bit of a strange one because I feel it can't decide what it wants to be. I guess you would call it a techno action film, but there's kind of horror elements. It almost plays like a horror film through most of this film, but what is it? Well, we'll talk about it. So the plot here essentially is this kind of like there's these various government sort of black sites around the world. And they're very kind of technically advanced, basically. There's all this kind of like a cutting edge technology, and one of the things is that there's these very advanced lie detectors and things like that. And somehow one of these sites has gone dark and no one knows what's going on. So Wesley Snipes leads this group of kind of like ex-Marines or some kind of special forces, and they basically recruit this guy who you kind of design the site, so he used to be part of their team, to go and find out what happened. In there, all the inhabitants are dead. They don't know what's going on, and as the movie progresses, obviously we drip-fed clues about what's happening, and it could be some kind of supernatural entity. It could be something technology-based, or it could be some other kind of third-party threat that we don't know about just yet. You have to watch the movie to find out. So what do we think about Armed Response? I've got to say, it does try something new. I will say that. It does have quite a unique premise to a certain degree. Do I think it's executed that well? Not really, but we'll talk about the good stuff. I think Snipes here, although he takes kind of a back seat towards some of the other characters, he definitely is leading man material. We know his presence on screen is really kind of felt, and you want to see more of his character, even though we don't know that much about him. Nonetheless, I do think he has a commanding screen presence, and it was kind of nice to see Anne Heche in a role like this. I do think she's a little bit miscast, to be honest, but nonetheless, there we go. And I think the actual location that they've chosen here for this kind of like this government black site, which is in some kind of prison, it's pretty good, and it looks kind of quite menacing and kind of quite mysterious as we're kind of going around it. There are a couple of kind of like good action sequences and some fairly realistic prosthetic gore and stuff like that. The main issue here, I feel, is going to be the story, is that it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It kind of flashes this kind of pseudoscience at you, but the events that happen, I'm thinking, come on. I mean, it maybe pushes the limits a little bit too far of what you can accept in kind of like, oh yeah, this scientific gobbledygook to explain these kind of like manifestations that are happening, and come on, it's just a little bit OTT, and you just think, man, it's just a bit silly ultimately. And there are some of the kind of the smaller actors, some of the supporting cast are pretty dire in some of their performances, I've got to say. The main players, I think, do a decent enough job, but the supporting characters here are pretty rough. And when it's all said and done, you really do have to question people's motivations about the end result. It just seems, it really does stretch a kind of like the believability about what people would do. And unfortunately, because you don't really know what's going on in this film, it comes a little bit tedious after a while. There's kind of like mystery. I don't think it kind of gives you enough answers and it kind of pretty puts them all pretty much at the end, where it goes kind of full sci-fi. But it comes a little bit tedious as well, kind of about halfway through, and you feel like it's dragging. But like I said, it does have some redeeming moments. Snipes was great here. There's some well-shot action sequences, and I thought the location really does add something to it. But it's pretty mundane at the end of the day. So I'll give it a bang-on average score, 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.